next topic I'm going to talk about is prophecy and false prophets. Because there's a whole lot of that going on nowadays. I'm sure one might wonder, how is it that you might be able to identify a false prophet, right? Well, first of all, I'd like to recommend a good book, as I do. This one's called Elements of Prophecy, or The Elements of Prophecy, by R.J. Stewart. I picked this little gem up at my local bookstore, and man, oh man, does it have some goodness in it. It's got some real cool stuff. But how do you tell a false prophet? Well, it's actually really super easy. Okay. Just follow this one rule. They are a false prophet if they say they're a prophet. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's it. Wrap it up. End the show. All right, later, guys. Bye. Just messing with you. Just messing with you. No. That is the truth, though. You got to think about it like this. When it comes to reading the future, especially when it comes to prophecy, because there's a difference between that and like divining certain things. And it actually talks about that, and like prophets are it's a pretty special thing, and usually a prophet experiences something pretty hardcore that isn't normal. So, so there's that. But also, divining the future and stuff like that is usually a more short-term thing. Just a couple weeks, a few years, something like that. Whereas a prophecy is a sort of thing that transcends time. Because like the Ouroboros deal, it's a cyclical thing. Prophecies and those things, they're a pattern. They're a thing that is identifiable because it reoccurs. Think about the amount of time that our universe has been in existence. How many planets have existed? Like, obviously we haven't discovered anything yet that proves that there's others besides ourselves. But assuming that there is, or was at some time, like what if there was other people just like us, existed maybe about as long as we did, and then did the same thing we're doing right now, jacked everything up, and then blew themselves to smithereens, and now, bada bing, bada boom, you got an extinct civilization that no longer we can't find anymore because, hey, they just don't exist. you know. But just think about that chunk of time. I have a saying that I have written up on my thing right here. It says that time is relative to the mass of the observer. That means that if something were big enough, that time would appear to be different for that being, Kind of like how we look down on an anthill. I think I used the anthill analogy already. I record these videos, sometimes I re-record them, and because I screwed up or something happened, or I didn't like it or something. And when I do that, sometimes I forget if I brought something up again. So if I didn't give the anthill analogy, then remind me and I'll tell you about it. But it's, I think I said it in the other video. It just has to do with, our perspectives and stuff, and the world of an ant versus the world of a human being. and how giant we are in comparison, and how time is relative to them compared to ourselves. And so think about that on like a God perspective. God would be able to see all sorts of patterns occurring and reoccurring all the time. And so, if a prophet were able to likewise see those patterns, perhaps through the eyes of the divine in some way or another, something like that, then you could assume uh, that they would be able to foresee something, so to speak. But foreseeing is kind of, at that point, a little bit of a shaky term, don't you think? Because you're foreseeing something that was a past event as well, that is just about to reoccur, is all. Isn't that interesting? So, not to not to downplay it and act like there's no divine connection when it comes to prophecy and it's some sort of mundane thing where someone just realized something or anything like that. At least this book certainly implies that there was some hardcore action going behind it. A lot of times, a lot of drugs and stuff like that. They might get into trances, things like that. Um, but so now that I've pointed out the fact that it's like a pattern-based thing that reoccurs and stuff like that, there's also another factor, and this isn't necessarily a requirement for a prophet. It's just a natural behavior of human beings that are chosen to be one. If you notice, it happens all the time in the Bible. They run away. Every single time they're chosen to be one, they're like, nah, I don't want to do this. I'm dipping out. Like the Jonah and the whale ordeal and everything like that. And even Jeremiah whined about it. He's like, no one listens to me. They all think I'm crazy. Yada, yada. You know, you gotta expect that it's gotta suck, man. None of those guys want to do that stuff. Some of them, like Jeremiah, just wanted to live a normal life, dude. He had this chick that he was really into. He loved her a lot, and he wanted to marry her. And God was like, nah, I got something I need you to do, bro. And he's like, man, I don't want to do that. And God's like, well, I'm sorry, man, I need you. And so he did what was right. Thank God for that, huh? But anyways, so the point I'm trying to make there is there's a, other than being ridiculed by your fellow human beings and stuff like that for claiming something like that, there's another downside to that. They don't want to be prophets because of the implications of that. If a prophet is correct, then that means that there are foreboding consequences. That means that there is a future that isn't very good, and it's scary. And they don't want to tell people, but they feel obligated to do so, you know? And that's honorable in my eyes. I really appreciate that. People would be so willing to step forward for the greater good. So, then what's the purpose if we have a future and stuff like that that is destined, foretold? Is it set in stone? Well, I mean, think about that. Like, why even have the prophet? Why even have them say anything at all if everything was just gonna we were all going to die and everything was going to, you know, go to heck, why even bother? Well, obviously because it can be changed, right? Obviously, the idea there is that you can go back, you can fix it, you can change the way that you are, change the frequency, level it out, and make things all good again. That's why Jeremiah had hope. That's why this necklace, here, I'm going to read this to you. It's like one of the most famous Jeremiah quotes from the book of Jeremiah, besides the whole tear down, build up one. It's Jeremiah 29:11. And it goes as follows. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. That verse comes from a part in his story where he got the bright idea to purchase some land for the people to live on after they got done going through all of their hardships, because he had faith that they would make it through, is the whole idea. And people thought he was crazy for doing that. People also didn't believe him and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that was the point where he prophesied about them being attacked or something like that. Now, people that study magic and stuff like that, that actually brings up another point. I just talked about like a difference between divination and prophecy, and it does outline it in this book that there is a difference. That one is a bit more hardcore than the other one and has certain things attached to it. So, as is with the case with Jeremiah and stuff like that, some of those things are more closer proximity, less prophecy style stuff. It's less of like a reoccurring thing and more of a thing that was happening in that moment. So, what are your opinions on that? Do you feel like the instance like where they were being attacked by certain places is a form of divination? Or do you think he was just using his prophecy stuff to do that? Because I assume you could use that on a short-term basis as well. But again, if we look, that just like that instance is an instance that reoccurs here. In fact, I wanted to read one of my favorite verses to you. I actually have it, I think, brought up in my Sepharia here. Yeah. Yeah, so this here is like one of my favorite verses also by Jeremiah. Um, and I'd said in one of my previous videos that I might skirt a little bit on the edge with politics and stuff. So this here verse, I believe, correlates specifically with what's going on over in the Middle East right now, what's going on with like the Israel-Palestine war and stuff like that. And there is a thing that is said by Jeremiah that is in regards to that, and it's this right here. Jeremiah 7, we'll start with verse 4. Well, we'll start with 3, I guess. Thus said God of hosts, the God of Israel, mend your ways and your actions, and I will let you dwell in this place. Don't put your trust in illusions and say, the temple of God, the temple of God, the temple of God are these buildings he's talking about. No. If you really mend your ways and your actions, if you execute justice between one party and another, if you do not oppress the stranger, the orphan, and the widow, if you do not shed the blood of the innocent in this place, if you do not follow other gods to your own hurt, then only will I let you dwell in this place, in the land that I gave to your ancestors for all time. Now, that's one of those instances where the topic was or is interpreted currently as something that was relevant then, in that day, at that time. But if it's, it's obviously from the lips of a prophet, so if we consider it as prophecy, then it would be a thing reoccurring. And it is a rule that still then applies today. And the land he's talking about is obviously the Holy Land. And when it comes to fighting over that land, or over any land at all, he says don't do it. The rule isn't placed on the human beings that he's talking about. The rule is placed on the land. That's what he's talking about. That's the rule is placed on, hey, you guys can stay here as long as nobody fights or harms each other or does bad stuff. Like, as long as y'all can get along, you can kick it here. Other than that, man, if you can't do that, then you're in the wrong place and you aren't supposed to be here. You have no right to it if you act badly, or, if you murder or harm people. Your actions are what make you worthy of staying in that place. Not what race you are, not what religion you follow, not who was there first. Nothing like that. Nothing at all. There is only one thing that makes you worthy to set foot in that place and to be there, period. And that has to do with your actions. Right there in the Bible. Freaking says it. So that obviously probably doesn't matter to people that are atheists and don't believe in that stuff. But the people that are warring over that place do believe in that stuff. So then what you got? Huh? People need to stop doing that stuff. Like, I understand, like, defending things and defending your family and stuff like that, but we should be, I'm no expert on that stuff, but in my opinion, people should be evacuated from places where that sort of stuff is going on. And if there are people that are still freaking warring and they're doing stuff and they got, like, slaves and things and are just terrible human beings, then dude, then, like it says in the beginning of that verse, to enact justice upon them or whatever, just to, but you don't want to war on that land, right? I guess we still have a job to do as far as enacting justice, but that's the thing, we gotta be careful, man. Violence is not the way. Violence is not the way, and people can't be out here doing their protests. When they do stuff, like, these need to be actual peaceful protests. And the peaceful people that are out there marching, when they're marching right next to someone that's chucking a brick, they need to be putting that guy in a headlock and then being like, yo, this guy's not one of us. He's not peaceful. Someone come get this guy. That's the way that it needs to be. I'm sorry. But people breaking rules and laws and stuff like that and treating each other like that, like, you guys are mad at dudes that got penthouses and are super rich. Those are the guys you're mad at, not the guy standing next to you. I'm starting to rant. I need to stop. But anyways, it's the point that I was trying to make there is that no one wants to be a prophet because it means that bad things are coming. And so no man in their right mind would freaking go there and say that they were, because they aren't. You aren't until after the fact. You're just a crazy dude saying crazy stuff until what you say comes true or whatever. And even then, there's a chance the person was just lucky, just made a lucky guess. You know, as you can, like I keep pointing this book out, but this book talks about like what makes a legitimate prophet or a legitimate prophecy. And usually it comes linked with some pretty gnarly stuff, man, that most of these people aren't even going through. And instead, they're just like instantly jumping on to like starting a cult or some crap. And then you see them on social media with like 20 people following them. And they're on some episode of Inside Edition or something where they're talking about a new cult that just sprung up where there's this guy that says that he can summon lightning or make wind flow around or something. And they show him being all kooky, using his powers. I don't know, man. It's not entirely implausible, but it's just there's a lot of crookedness out there, man. A lot of people trying to pretend to be something that they're not, and you need to be careful about that. That's part of what I want to do with the channel, man. Trying to straighten that stuff out, make it so that it's not, something that we have to question so much, so we can put our faith in God without having to worry about other things being true or not. When we remove some of the ambiguity of some of this, it'll be clearer and it'll be easier for us to connect with the divine and to function as a unit, as a planet, and as a people. You dig? Alright. Well, anyways, again, trying to keep them around this amount of time, so I'm going to cut it there. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate comments, likes, and shares, and subscribes, and all that good stuff. I love you guys. I want you to stay peaceful. If you go out and you're doing protests and stuff like that, be one of the good guys, man. Keep us all level. Keep us right there, man. Keep us right at that medium. You know what I'm saying? Keep that peace. It doesn't matter what kind of hat the guy's wearing. Doesn't matter what kind of color hair the person has. We're all people and we need to love each other. I know it sounds like some hippie crap, but it's the way it is, man. You want to live here, there's other people here, dude. You just got to deal with it the way it is. Well, not the way it is. You try your best to put your best foot forward so that others will hopefully see the wisdom in that and do the same, I guess. I don't know. But that's it for today. Alright. You might see some Serpent Mountain uploads here next, so I don't know. Hopefully you like my stuff, guys. Alright. Have a good weekend. Talk to you later.